This video contains spoilers for episode 5 of X-Men 97. I would heavily recommend watching up to it before this video. You can even skip episode 4 if you have to, because it isn't relevant to this plotline. I know the MCU has been bad nowadays, but trust me, this one is worth it. X-Men 97's 5th episode, Remember It, opens with the absolute banger of a theme song, followed by a news broadcast with reporter Trish Tilby that's being recorded at the X-Mansion, informing the world about the X-Men on this big day in mutant history, where the mutant nation of Genosha is being accepted into the UN. Rogue, Magneto, and Gambit are flying over Genosha. Gambit and Magneto bicker until Rogue points out that they've arrived. Gambit goes to lean on Rogue's chair and say,
"They be busy doing a bit of renovating since Gambit's last visit,"
as we see the unique aspects of a mutant nation. People using their powers to make food, or kids just playing around joyfully using their different powers. After they land, they talk to Madeline Pryor, the gene clone, who is now on Genosha's council. The mention of them having 2 genes prompts Gambit to say,
"Two always better than one, and far better than 3, most times."
Which at first glance is taken as merely an immature joke, leading to Magneto's apology.
Forgive Gambit's passive adolescence.
Then an explanation for why each of these 3 is here.
He insisted on coming after Rogue agreed to join me at the gala.
So Magneto was invited here, brought Rogue along, and that made Gambit push to come along too. He has always flirted with Rogue, and clearly has an interest in her. Earlier this season, there have been things that made him suspicious that there's more going on between her and Magneto than meets the eye. So he came along because of those suspicions. He doesn't want to lose Rogue to Magneto. This puts a whole new spin on his previous line. 2 is always better than 1, because he wants himself and Rogue to be together instead of living his life single. And far better than 3, because things have been messed up once Magneto came into the mix. But only better than 3 most times, as the reason he came on this trip was that him being here with Rogue and Magneto is better than the 2 of them being alone. Magneto was invited here under an initiative called
The Future,
a name very relevant and poignant to the themes of this show. Magneto is taken off to talk to the council, so Rogue and Gambit are left behind, and are met by Nightcrawler.
Kurt joined the council to help work with Genosha's various communities of faith.
A nice little bit of world building and explanation for why he's here. Kurt proclaims,
"Everything around us would not have been possible without the work of the X-Men."
Clearly very proud of what this nation has become. And this nation owes its prosperity to the X-Men, which is why its residents are so excited to see them, as we see earlier in the episode.
Is that the X-Men?
Rogue finds Genosha wonderful as well.
Oh my, it's just like he said it'd be.
Which makes Gambit ask,
"Who? The professor?"
She got caught up in admiring this place and let that last sentence slip, now needing to cover for it. But the truth behind that line will be revealed later. Gambit observes,
"Daddy's charging pretty high rent."
which Kurt justifies with,
Birthing a nation overnight is not without its share of stumbles.
which is a fair justification and another nice bit of world building. Rogue brushes off Gambit's comment, but Gambit thinks,
Gambit's willing to ask questions no one else will, like why is Magneto suddenly mutant MVP?
as Genosha has a Magneto statue the same size as the one of Charles, and there is a lot of Magneto support going around. With Charles believed to be dead, and Magneto leading the X-Men, it makes sense that support for him would increase, especially in a nation where his previous anti-human ideology won't be as frowned upon, hence the slogan, Magneto was right. Gambit up to this point is making it clear that he is very suspicious of Magneto, which is obviously fueled by his thought that something is going on between Magneto and Rogue that he doesn't like. Rogue goes to watch a mutant street performance, which includes dances that are only possible because of their unique mutant powers. And as Gambit watches from a distance, Kurt tells him,
A man named Gambit. Your poker face is very poor.
a tragically ironic line that we'll come back to later in this episode. Kurt continues,
It does not take a priest to see you and Rogue's souls touch in every gaze.
as Rogue invites Gambit to come watch with her, but he responds,
Ain't the touch she be looking for.
Rogue's power set makes it so that anyone she physically touches gets their energy sapped, even to the point of dying if it's for too long. And this creates a barrier between her and anyone else that prevents the relationship Gambit wants to have with her. They clearly care about each other, and Gambit flirts with her all the time, as seen in this episode and in prior episodes of this show.
Any worthwhile man would gladly suffer your hand in a dance.
As well as its predecessor.
Let's have a kiss before you go, huh?
But it's even showcased in the intro how her powers prevent their relationship from getting too close. Kurt finds this statement overly dramatic.
You Americans, so theatrical. Life is violins and close-ups. I blame soap operas.
To him, it seems like Gambit is making it a bigger deal than it really is. His advice is,
Just marry Isabel and be done.
but Gambit smirks and says,
Scoundrels like me, we don't get no white picket reward.
he knows that Kurt doesn't get the full picture of what's going on here, and justifies his inability to marry Rogue with,
We too busy for love. Too busy sinning.
as Gambit plays up the fact that he's a sinner due to the life of crime he came from. Kurt responds with,
There is no love without sin. For love is best measured in what we forgive.
which is not precisely theologically accurate, but quite a profound sentiment nonetheless. After all, Christianity is based on the belief that everyone is a sinner, but no one is beyond forgiveness in the eyes of perfect love. Gambit may say that he's too sinful to be loved, but Kurt knows that's not true, and as the little smile that peeks through after that line shows, so does Gambit. We cut back to their recording of the news broadcast where Scott is being interviewed. His glasses are shining to the camera, so he gets asked,
Hey, those shades are weirding out the lights. Can you take them off?
but he sheepishly responds,
I can't. Sorry.
a small thing, but a little detail showing how humans don't understand the lives mutants live. He gets asked about him and Jean's relationship, but Jean is outside sifting through her memories since she isn't sure which are hers and which are her clones, due to their psychic link. Her relationship with Scott is strained now because of the whole clone situation, and Scott grieving his son. But she recalls a memory of them before, contrasting it against now. And as she tells this story, Scott is telling the same story to the reporter. As she is describing it, there are details Logan fills in, which reminds her,
Oh, right. You were there.
she recalls,
I asked Scott to go on a picnic at sunset.
while Scott recalls.
She seemed nervous when I asked her to go out.
These gaps in memory of her forgetting Logan was there, and her and Scott's accounts not lining up, add on to a theme established by episode 3 of the series, how memories can be fragile and unreliable. This is further reinforced when Logan replies,
I know all about drowning in memories.
as there is so much to Logan's life that this applies to. His long lifespan makes it so that many people he knew are long gone, and on top of that, his memories have turned out to be fake before. And the metaphor of drowning is a nice touch considering Jean is literally surrounded by water as she reacquaints herself with her telekinesis. He warns,
Best to look up and keep paddling. Keep moving, because the past'll yank you under if you don't.
as the most prominent theme of the season is history versus the future. The past is set and has its many problems. All you can do about it is keep moving and make for yourself a better future. There's a lot more I could say here, but when it comes to assessing this episode specifically, I'll leave it at that. Logan's line is just fantastic in the context of the show. His insight makes Jean remark,
I forget how many sunrises your eyes have seen.
acknowledging Logan's long history, again adding to the fragility of Jean's memories as another thing she forgot, and leading Logan to respond,
The only ever seen one of you, Red. Just the one.
a line that contrasts him and Scott, since Scott is still figuring out how to feel when Madeline is the mother of his son, but Jean was the one he originally married, whereas to Logan, only the real Jean matters. This prompts Jean to kiss him, also spurred on by her in episode 3 sensing how much he cares for her, and this catches Logan off guard, but when he comes to his senses, he pulls back and says,
You're Jean Grey, he's Scott Summers. Those are the rules.
because as much as he would like to be with Jean, he knows that it's not his place to do so, because she's already married to Scott. As Gambit's earlier line said, 2 is far better than 3. Logan getting in the way would only make everything worse. He adds,
You just forgot him for a sec.
I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, but it again compounds on the idea of the fragility of memories. Scott gets questioned about his kid, a sore subject. Tilby found birth records for Nathan, so when Scott says,
Jean and I don't have any kids.
She reveals her knowledge and asks,
Why lie?
because to her it seems to be that he was lying, when in reality the situation was far more complicated and painful than he wants to talk about. So he says he did it
Because you're normal. You're ungrateful.
the memory of the doctor not being willing to deliver their son because they're mutants, and in general humanity's disdain towards mutants, has made it clear to him just how ungrateful and unwilling to accept differences humanity is.
We fight, risk our lives for you. Evil mutants, robots, crazy aliens.
Listing all the ways the X-Men help, despite which, humanity still views them as freaks or threats. He moves on to why his son isn't in the picture.
I gave him up. I gave him up because you can't say thank you.
Scott views this sacrifice they had to make as caused by humanity's ungratefulness, because the future was the best chance their son had to be cured of this virus caused by a mission the X-Men went alone on. Nobody in the present was going to help them defeat Sinister or get a mutant baby cured of this disease. The X-Men help humanity all the time, but humanity finds all kinds of reasons not to return the favor. He adds on,
Because I have to stomach your questions and prove that I'm a person.
he's realized from Tilby's mission statement
I came here today to give the X-Men a chance to show the world that mutants are just like us. People. Normal.
that even this news segment, framed as an opportunity, is more of a gross necessity that may not even work. The X-Men save humanity time and time again, and yet they still need an interview for even the chance to show that they're people just like everyone else.
I lie because the truth is we're nothing like you.
He dodged the question about Nathan, because humanity being normal means they'll never understand what he had to go through. But they can't seem to recognize that that difference is a good thing. Their powers, while dangerous, are necessary to stop the threats he mentioned earlier.
Thank God, because it's the only reason you people are still alive.
This whole interview, to show why mutants are just like regular people, only ended up showing how different they were. So Scott storms off, no longer willing to beg for the simple recognition that mutants are people too. The glasses thing at the start was because the cameraman had no concept of dangerous powers that needed to be held back by those glasses. And normal questions like the one about Nathan have far more complicated answers that Scott doesn't think humanity will understand, because it's a situation only the X-Men would be forced to go through. Scott's anger is partially justified, as even with the steps being taken to integrate mutants more into the world, such as Genosha being admitted into the UN, they're baby steps compared to the complete change of climate that needs to be done, as is made clear by the rest of the season. As Magneto is at the council, they discuss why he was brought here.
Recent events have aligned themselves in an unprecedented fashion for our kind.
It was spurred on by the greater place mutants are taking in the world as of late. Callisto, leader of the Morlocks, adds on,
With even the most overlooked of us finally getting a voice.
as even the Morlocks are looked out for now, since Magneto helped them make it to Genosha. Banshee adds,
We need to be thinking about how to speak loudly, as one united community.
a cheeky little reference to his mutant power of screaming really loud. Magneto asks,
This concerns me and my X-Men. How?
to which Emma Frost says,
We need a handsome jawline that begs trust and respect. A poster child king.
but Moira McTaggart thinks that wording it that way might give Magneto too grandiose of a picture.
Careful, Miss Frost. Don't go filling this man's head with such notions.
Also, the wording, filling this man's head, might be a cheeky little reference to Emma's psychic powers. Emma doesn't appreciate the interjection.
Whose charitable idea was it to let a human be on the council? Were no others available to weep over semantics?
Because she thinks that it is unhelpful to bicker about the wording of her prior statement, and clearly has disdain for humans. This will be a bit relevant later. Madeline says,
We all agreed on a title of Chancellor.
but this consensus is one Magneto questions.
You eclectic allotment of social climbers wish for me to rule Genosha.
He sees it as strange that anyone would want him to rule, and is especially confused as to how such a varied group of people, all social climbers he thinks would be better suited to rule than he is, would unanimously agree for him to rule.
Hilarious.
Shaw justifies it with,
One could argue, and many sadly do, that none of us would be here today were it not for you and your publicity stunt.
which is true, as it was Magneto's trial and saving of the tribunals in episode 2 that even opened the UN to want to repair their relations with the mutants, leading them to today, where Genosha is being accepted into the UN. And this has made Magneto even more of a mutant figurehead than he already was, making him the only real choice to rule, in their eyes. Magneto looks unfavorably towards humans, and thus asks,
"Are there no others better tempered to stomach the squabble of human diplomacy?"
As his hatred for humanity, while being held back due to him being entrusted with Charles's dream, is still there and makes him think that he is the last choice they'd want for a leader that would have to deal with the rest of the nations in the UN. The response he gets is that Charles would be a better choice, but he isn't here anymore, and
If Charles trusts you with his X-Men, he trusts you with this.
this statement gets Magneto to think about when Charles first told him about his dream, to which Magneto's thought was
he sentimental or suicidal? Both earn an early grave.
As Magneto couldn't fathom the idea of mutant-human coexistence. Even saying the words pains him, as we see earlier in the season.
Mutant-human coexistence.
Because his cynical belief was that humans could never let mutants live, hence him always wanting to wipe out humanity first. Tolerance is extinction in either direction. It's best to strike first so that mutants come out on top. Being hopeful like Charles will just let humanity get the upper hand instead. But Charles's response was,
"Magneto, any dream worth having is a dream worth dying for."
As Charles knew that his dream of coexistence would not be easy, but he was willing to chase it anyway, no matter whether he survived the pursuit or not. And as Magneto says, he didn't expect to.
"We thought we'd perish before seeing the day when humanity accepted our people."
Magneto viewed it as an impossibility, and Charles, while hopeful, still viewed it as past his lifetime. This all leads up to a powerful line from Magneto.
"Like Moses in the Promised Land, we would carry the dream, but never live it."
In the past, he saw himself and Charles as leading mutants to a future they wouldn't live to see. And here he is looking at that future, soon to come. But does he even deserve to be a part of it? Or, like Moses, have his own wrongdoings made it so that he should merely stand and watch as what he's been leading all this time gets carried on without him? Magneto, now that he's taken on Charles's dream, has admitted that his prior attempts to wipe out humanity rather than coexist with them were mistakes.
"My past is too littered with error."
So after fighting coexistence for so long, why should he be allowed to take part in it? Madeline responds,
Look, Magnus, I may not be Jean Grey, but I know what the professor would say if he was here.
As Magneto's cynical perspective is often contrasted against Charles's, and she believes that the response to Magneto's hesitation is
time to dream bigger.
As him helping them here could lead to even more steps toward mutants taking their place in the world. Magneto looks up from Genosha, seeing what Charles's dream has brought so far, with Charles and his own statue standing above it, and realizes that continuing the growth of this mutant nation is how best to carry the dream he promised to uphold. Having finally been convinced, he says,
"You shall have me, on one condition."
Him and Rogue talk about his one condition, that being that if he is to be king, then she will have to be queen alongside him. She is angry at what to her seems purely like an attempt to get them back together. More on that later. But he assures her,
"It is a political calculation, Rogue.
Because together they can be
me, mutant kind's fiercest defender."
Magneto knows that he is an effective icon for mutant kind, because of his many efforts to fight for their justice at any cost. But he believes that he alone would not be an effective king, because of his disdain for humans, as was made clear last scene. Unlike him, Rogue would be
an X-Man whose touch allows her to feel anyone's pain.
It's a good move to have an X-Man help lead Genosha, because out of all mutants, they are the ones who have helped humanity time and time again. And part of Rogue's superpower is empathy, alongside him just seeing anyone as better suited to be diplomatic towards humanity than he is. So she would be the one truly leading the nation and making the efforts in human diplomacy. He sees this opportunity as
a final chance to uphold the promise we made to one another so long ago.
Referring to himself and Charles. Because as the leader of Genosha, he could make a lot of progress for mutants, but he can't do it alone.
But I need help.
as was made clear by him wanting Rogue to rule alongside him. Despite his clear case for why Rogue is politically a great choice for this role, and how this could benefit mutants, Rogue claims,
You take me for a fool, acting like this is all about you and the professor.
Because even behind this reasoning, she believes part of this is an attempt to continue their relationship from long ago, and she's right.
I won't deny my passion for you.
He admits that there is more to it than pure politics, and that,
as with Gambit, loving you makes broken men whole, so that even as you deny us, our heartache is not in vain.
As both of them love Rogue, and yet for different reasons, she stays at a distance from them both. Magneto finishes with,
We would be lucky to have you. Lead.
Pausing before lead, because it is true that we, being Gambit or himself, would be lucky to have her, but even more so, we, being mutants, would be lucky to have Rogue lead and help him push Genosha and mutants as a whole into a better future. Rogue doesn't have anything to say. She just looks downwards as she contemplates the choice here. There's a clear case for how it will benefit mutants, but she already benefits mutants by being on the X-Men, and this relationship isn't one that she particularly wants to enter back into, so the good that this opportunity provides has to outweigh that. Back at the X-Mansion, Cyclops talks with Jean about how he lost it at the reporter, which Jean thinks is not a big deal, because
anger is normal, even for mutants. Sometimes you just have to let go.
And Scott's response is,
There are some things worth holding on to.
We'll get to what that line meant in a second. They talk about Nathan and kiss, but then the room comes apart as the real Jean shows up, reveals that this was actually Madeline, and kicks her out, which prompts a visible reaction from her at the council, which she explains away with,
Sorry, mine just drifted a moment.
And Emma Frost, the other psychic in the room, says,
Mind drift indeed.
And smirks. A nice little detail, because she would be able to know that Madeline's excuse, while technically accurate, was leaving a few details out. That's why Scott said that line. He is torn about holding on to Madeline, because he has the real Jean back, but he can't bring himself to let go of Madeline completely, because
she's the mother of my son.
When Jean asks,
Do you love her?
He clearly finds it hard to answer as he says,
I love both of you.
He doesn't want that to be his answer, but there's no point in lying about it, especially to a psychic. And this contrasts him with Wolverine earlier, who made it clear that he only cares about the real Jean. Again, as Gambit said earlier, 2 is far better than 3, as this whole situation is a whole lot messier than when it was just Scott and one Jean. Jean and Scott argue until Jean senses something that makes her double over, foreshadowing what's to come. As Gambit gets ready for the gala, Rogue shows up,
Hey there.
which to Gambit is a pleasant surprise.
Wasn't expecting a lady caller.
But as he walks closer, he sees that her face is downcast and she's holding back tears. So he asks,
What's wrong, Shia?
And Rogue, knowing that this news is not going to be easy for him, responds,
You best sit down.
As tears stream down her face. This isn't going to be easy for her either. She starts with,
It was back after I ran away from my daddy.
Because she was disowned for being a mutant, then was adopted by Mystique. Hence,
My evil mother was helping me with my powers. Said she knew a fella who could help. An associate.
this was Rogue's introduction to Magneto, the beginning of a story that she hid from the X-Men until this point, insisting,
That cat's gotta stay in its bag. You hear me?
earlier this season, but she needs to come clean now. Her initial impression of Magneto was,
The man seemed nice enough. Seemed to want to help.
as that was Magneto's intention, but her view of helping was merely that he would help her control her powers after the traumatizing event of her accidentally sapping her boyfriend with them. But she soon realized Magneto's help didn't end there.
Just not like I thought.
The world at the time was very much anti-mutant, and Rogue's own experiences with her powers hadn't been great. So Rogue never saw mutanthood as something to be proud of, but Magneto's ideas were clearly very eye-opening to her.
He spent weeks talking about how mutants were special, how we'd have our own cities and culture one day.
This is exactly what she was talking about at the start of this episode.
Oh my, it's just like he said it'd be.
Seeing Genosha in person has made these dreams of Magneto's come to life. She sees all the things he envisioned so long ago.
He even had plans too, Remy. Mutant art, fashion, dance.
And with all that coming to fruition, it's heavily impacting her mindset right now. Also,
he showed me that being a mutant wasn't just about my power. It could be something more.
Magneto showed Rogue that being a mutant doesn't make you a freak that has to be isolated. It makes you part of a larger community that just isn't accepted by the greater world yet. The emphasis on my power is because at first, to her, it seemed like since she is the only one with this power, she's on her own. But instead, Magneto showed her that being a mutant is a shared identity despite differences in powers, and they can be proud of it and band together because of it. There was another aspect to their relationship, though.
And when we realized that his powers protected him from my touch, other things started happening.
Rogue had discovered that her inability to touch anyone, the thing that keeps her at a distance from Gambit, doesn't apply, because Magneto's powers can form some sort of barrier around him, allowing for a physical intimacy that she didn't think would be possible with anyone ever again.
But then I started seeing the hurt in him, like raging waters.
Since they became romantically close, she got a closer look into who Magneto really is. The raging waters metaphor is especially appropriate considering what we see of his psyche in the finale of this season. After that, she left him because
there wasn't enough room in our affair for his demons and mine.
Considering her own traumatic past. After that,
when I joined the X-Men, Eric said he wouldn't want me to lose another family.
As even when they parted ways, he didn't stop loving her, as their earlier scene indicated. So because of that,
he acted like it never happened. We both did.
Before we get to where that leads in this scene, we have to ask a question. This is clearly a retcon, but is it a contradictory one? Rogue and Magneto never have significant interactions in the original show, so there was never any indication of this relationship. But that also means there was never any interaction between them that would contradict this relationship's existence. Rogue says here that neither of them talked about it because Rogue didn't want the X-Men to know, and Magneto cared about her enough to respect that. Yes, Magneto in the original show often fought and sometimes tried to kill the X-Men, but nothing he did would have killed Rogue due to her extreme durability. However, killing members of her new family was a possible result of Magneto's actions. I wouldn't consider that contradictory though, because Magneto doesn't want to kill the X-Men just for the sake of it. But when they get in the way of his goals, he does what he has to because he views it as a necessary sacrifice that is for the good of mutant kind. Telling people about his past affair with Rogue may at best sow some discord among the X-Men, but the only guaranteed outcome would have been damaging Rogue's relationship with her new family, which she cares too much about her to do needlessly, and specifically promised not to do. And this season has made it clear that promises are not something Magneto wants to take lightly. So yeah, this retcon checks out actually. This past relationship that Rogue hid further adds on to the theme of the unreliability of the past, established by episode 3 and continued in this one, but in a different way. Not just the unreliability of memories, but the fact that the past can be twisted or obscured. As Rogue, when telling others her story before this point, left this out, as did Magneto. Gambit knows that there had to be a reason behind her telling him all this, but he is still holding out for the chance that she's going to say no to Magneto. So he asks,
"You gonna accept his offer?"
As he holds up a Queen of Hearts that covers Rogue in the frame. It's a little cheesy to put it this way, but Rogue is the queen of his heart. He has always loved her, even if they never get to be together. He's holding onto this card for as long as he can. He doesn't want to believe that Rogue would choose Magneto over him, but she says,
"If Genosha's shown us anything, it's that we don't need to be afraid of change."
Genosha, once a prison camp for mutants, has become the picture of what their future can be. A society where mutants are free to live and use their powers, that is soon to be recognized on the world stage. It's an incredibly hopeful example of change, and one that offers a lot of promise towards making way for mutants in the future. Seeing this, Rogue posits.
And if I can play a bigger role and better in the world, well, that's the whole reason I became an X-Man.
She sees the good of Genosha, and ruling by Magneto's side will provide her an opportunity to, through Genosha, better the world for mutants. Multiple characters in this episode see the X-Men as a stepping stone to Genosha.
If Charles trusts you with his X-Men, he trusts you with this.
About this opportunity to lead Genosha, Magneto says,
"It is why he gave me his X-Men."
So Rogue comes to the same conclusion. Being part of the X-Men was her chance to help mutants and better the world. But this is an even better chance. She can't just pass it up. Gambit took that as a yes. She is going to accept Magneto's offer. So he throws the Queen of Hearts into the fire. Rogue, always just out of reach, is now completely lost to him, burning away. He starts to get angry at how he's been treated.
You never wanted to make things official. I respected that. I played the swamp rat.
This whole time, his entire routine of flirting with Rogue, but acting like he doesn't deserve anything serious, has been a cover. Yet nobody saw it that way, because his poker face actually isn't very poor. He has pretended to be unworthy of love, too busy sinning for it, to hide the fact that he really did love Rogue, and wanted a more serious relationship with her. But she never wanted that, because of the limits that relationship would have, due to her inability to touch anyone. So they compromised at an unofficial, flirtatious relationship that never went anywhere because Rogue wouldn't allow it to. But after all this time, she's going to drop him for Magneto, and calling back to Magneto's line,
"As with Gambit, loving you makes broken men whole, so that even as you deny us, our heartache is not in vain."
This does make it so that Gambit's heartache, which was not in vain, now is. He was content being as close as he was going to get with Rogue, but now she's choosing someone else over him, so what was even the point after all this time? Rogue thinks that's unfair, because she had to play a part to hide what was going on as well.
And I played your share. All the expectations.
She played the part of the elusive Cher, to hide her true feelings, that there was a part of her that wanted to be with Gambit, but she was held back by...
Every time, looking at you, seeing all the things I couldn't do.
But Gambit doesn't think that's comparable, because there is more that she could have done, but just didn't.
Like telling Gambit the dang truth.
Because he has been honest with her this whole time, and she has been keeping things from him. So he doesn't see it as fair that she could compare the part she's playing to the part he's been forced to play all this time. Rogue can't take dancing around the issue anymore, so she yells,
"I can't touch you, Remy!"
As that is the ultimate reason for them remaining as they did. Even though she knows that he cares for her, this barrier prevents any relationship they would have from being as close as she would want it to be.
Your heart may beat for me, but I can't feel it.
And this limitation is ironic because of Gambit's powers. He specifically has the power to activate the potential energy in whatever he touches. And because him and Rogue can't touch, this relationship is merely unrealized potential.
You light up everything you touch, but never me.
Gambit lays it out clearly.
Something's a bit deeper than skin, Cher.
While he's respected her desire to keep it unofficial, he doesn't see the inability to touch as the same barrier, and was always willing to look past that. This relationship should be worth more than that, but Rogue doesn't think so.
Not this.
Gambit believes choosing Magneto is a mistake that will leave her broken.
I wager that fool will break your heart in two.
The use of the word wager obviously lining up with his superhero identity of Gambit, but he genuinely thinks that Rogue going with Magneto isn't going to work out. He obviously has a personal stake in it though, so Rogue, not trusting his judgment here, sarcastically asks,
Gambit always knows the odds. That it?
But he doubles down.
In this game he do.
He leaves off with,
"Till then, we be friends, mon ami. Just friends."
Then walks away. Gambit sees that nothing he says will change her mind, so he accepts his fate. She never wanted to make things official, but now he is officially out of the picture. We cut to fireworks as the gala begins, but if you look closely, you can see that the Watcher is present, a faint silhouette with his eyes being made up by stars. This is a better use of the Watcher than anything in the What If show. A very cool piece of imagery that serves as a subtle, unobtrusive note that what's to come is something worth watching. A neat bit of foreshadowing. As we cut to the gala, a seemingly innocent detail is this pink-faced man walking past the camera. You'd think nothing of it, because the pink lighting of the venue makes a lot of other faces look pink as well, but that isn't what's happening here. Spoilers, but this is a glimpse at Bastion, the overarching villain of the series. What exactly he's doing here isn't ever directly explained, but it's a nice little detail no matter what conclusion you draw from his presence here. Throughout the gala, we see the different forms of mutant dancing, again reinforcing Magneto's ideas of what a world free for mutants would be like. Madeline approaches Gambit and asks,
"A drink for my dashing Cajun?"
which prompts his response,
"Not enough drink changed the fact that others be more dashing, share."
As he looks over at Magneto, feeling defeated because of Rogue's decision. Dr. Cooper comes up to Magneto and some other council members and says,
"Assemble the council. We need to talk."
So Shaw asks,
"Whatever is the matter, Dr. Cooper?"
To which Emma Frost smugly adds,
"Is it your dress?"
A completely fitting response from her, because she is very clearly smug all the time, but also because she is shown to be pretty vain. Her line about the importance of Magneto's handsome jawline shows that. Even the characters, who have only a few lines in this show, get consistent and specific characterization, which I just love. Emma Frost would definitely take the chance to jab at Dr. Cooper's not-so-stylish outfit, especially considering her disdain for humans she expressed earlier about Moira. Anyway, Magneto knows what she is about to bring up, and says,
"My former prosecutor has likely taken issue with your choice for Chancellor."
Knowing what she is going to take issue with, and referring to her as his former prosecutor, is a very sneaky way to imply that she is biased here, and he knows it. And he follows up with,
"But surely Genosha's right to self-govern will not only be protected, but cherished, as it is with all UN nations."
A passive-aggressive way for Magneto to point out that, despite her issues with him, to reject the choice of him leading would be hypocritical given the modus operandi of the organization she represents. Cooper gets right to the point.
"Most other nations don't allow a terrorist to be their leader."
To which Magneto's cutting response is,
"Yet so many allow their leaders to be terrorists."
An extremely loaded line that could apply to all kinds of leaders across history, especially coming from him, given both his past in the Holocaust, as well as the government-backed mutant oppression such as Sentinels that has been happening for so long. Shaw attempts to reassure Cooper with,
"If it eases your mind, Magneto accepted only on the condition that we ask one of the X-Men to govern with him."
Which doesn't seem to convince her of much, until he specifies,
"Rogue."
Which makes her perk up and ask,
"What did she say?"
Because Shaw's statement only mentioned a request, which isn't good enough. A small thing, but nice that Cooper doesn't let him get away with an answer that doesn't quite address her concern. Right on cue, Rogue flies in wearing a dress with her arms exposed, taking her one chance to wear something like this because of the nature of the mutant gala, where she can dance in the air so that there is nobody to brush past her like the crowded club in episode 1, where she remarks that she could never take place in it. And her dance partner is Magneto, who need not be concerned about her powers. Stunned at her appearance, Magneto wordlessly passes his drink to Cooper and flies up to meet her, and Gambit stands up to watch as well. Rogue invites Magneto up, and they raise their hands and press them together, a common way to start a dance. That has a lot more meaning for Rogue, since she can't do this with anyone else. As they do so, Gambit watches, and in this amazing shot, gets covered by the pressing together of their hands. Their ability to touch overshadowing Gambit, as was made clear in Rogue and Gambit's previous scene. Gambit can't watch anymore, so he walks off. They dance for a bit longer and Rogue looks off to the side, unsatisfied. Then they kiss as one final attempt of hers to see if it really is worth it. She backs away with,
"Thanks for the dance, sugar, but Remy was right. Some things are deeper than skin."
She had gone so long thinking that she could never enter a romantic relationship with someone she couldn't touch, because of all the limitations that would bring, all the regrets she would have because of what she couldn't do. But this final dance was her checking for sure whether it's really all worth it. Is a relationship with Magneto, and all the terrible baggage that brings, worth it for this one thing? Ultimately, it leaves her unsatisfied, and she realizes that, no, it's not worth it. What is worth it is a relationship that's more than skin deep. The song that played over this section was Ace of Base's Happy Nation, a very fitting song for multiple reasons. For one, it's a 90s song and this show takes place in the 90s, but also lyrics such as, where the people understand and dream of perfect man, are a clear reference to Nazi ideals, which the song is criticizing. Something present in Magneto's past, but in general the song is speaking out against fascism that is touted as and humanity's oppression of mutants would definitely be something that mutants see as what the song is criticizing. Humanity oppresses mutants supposedly for the good of mankind, but really use that as an excuse to do terrible things. The mutant nation of Genosha would definitely find this song as a rallying cry against everything mutants have experienced. But if we look at the lyrics again, and instead think of it as describing Genosha, it works as well. Happy nation because Genosha is happy now that they are gaining more of a place in the world, where the people understand and dream of perfect man, because the mutant ideal, especially propagated by Magneto, is that mutants are the better, maybe even perfect, evolution of man. Situation leading to sweet salvation, because Magneto sees the acceptance of mutants and Genosha on the world stage as a sort of salvation, as made clear by his earlier reference to Moses and the Promised Land. For the people, for the good, for mankind's brotherhood, because obviously mutants view Genosha as a great thing for people. And brotherhood is a fairly specific word that could be relevant here, considering the Brotherhood of Mutants, who fought for mutant supremacy, a group started by Magneto in the comics, although not in the animated show's continuity. There are more lyrics to this song that apply very well to things present in the episode and this show, but the lyrics end off with that in the episode, so I'm just gonna leave it there. While this was happening, Madeline senses something like Jean did earlier, getting a message from Cable this time. Turn it off! The music! Blood drips from both her nose and Jean's, and Madeline stumbles out of the party. Cable runs in, as explosions fire off in the background, but as he reaches Madeline, his time travel tech says,
Cable, what's going on?
Body slide 1.
And starts pulling him away. But before it yanks him, Jean looks into his eyes. Something she noted about Nathan to Scott was,
Look, he has your eyes.
Which is a very significant thing given the story she tells earlier in the episode.
His eyes made me stay.
So it makes sense she would form the connection and realize,
You made it. You survived.
And since Cable can't prevent what he was trying to, he says,
I'm so sorry, Mom.
But Madeline, so happy to see that her son made it, even if she didn't know until now, asks,
Sorry for what?
Not realizing that her happiness is about to get cut short. A green light explodes into the venue, and in between cuts to black and silence, we see people running and screaming. When Magneto and Rogue wake up, Kurt saves them from a laser, and clearly is very injured. But when Rogue reaches for him, she realizes that her choice of clothing has come back to bite her. So Gambit comes over and checks his pulse instead.
You alive? So are you.
Since Gambit has been awake for longer than they have, Magneto asks,
Gambit, how many?
And Gambit was smiling because Rogue was alive, but his face instantly drops as he says,
Too many. So many.
As he looks at the many dead bodies of mutants here.
Some vile Godzilla sentinel. You go at it, you end up dead.
Clearly establishing the stakes. They tear through Sentinels easily in the first episode of the show, but this is a whole different beast, to the point where even damaging it is difficult.
Can't even dent it.
Taking it down is not going to be easy. He relays the current situation.
We're trying to evacuate folks now,
as we saw Kurt do with Magneto and Rogue, and adds,
but the Morlocks, they stuck in the bay, right under its belly.
It makes sense that the Morlocks wouldn't be at the gala, since they are sort of outcasts, but that means that they were in a separate place that has now become too dangerous to get to.
There's no way to them.
Because their one person who can teleport is out of commission after getting Rogue and Magneto. Even hearing these impossible odds, Magneto looks down and says,
A promise was made.
Because in episode 2, he said to Leech, a member of the Morlocks,
I promise you, child, you shall never be afraid again.
Magneto has promised that, and to fight for Charles's vision. So even in the face of such overwhelming odds, he is not going to give up on the Morlocks. We see Dr. Cooper as well, trying to help mutants, but seeing them get killed left and right, causing her to look up in horror at this thing. Magneto lays out the plan.
I draw its fire away from the gardens. Rogue clears a path for Gambit to the Morlocks.
Willing to take the terrifying role of drawing the giant Sentinel's attention. then drops the absolute banger of a line.
Save as many as you can. We shall not live our days wondering if we could have saved more.
Magneto putting himself on the line and saying this shows how he truly can be heroic and a good leader when it comes down to it. There's a reason Charles put him in charge of the X-Men, to bring out this part of him. It's such a good line. Many have been lost already, but to let that slow them down would only leave them with more regret in the future, wondering if they could have saved more. So instead, all they can do is, from this point, save as many as they can so that no matter the outcome, no matter whether they even survive this, they will have nothing to regret. And this sentiment further reinforces the show's idea that the past is already set. All you can do is move on from it and make the most of the future. Plus it frames this as the way to help your future self not get stuck in the past by not leaving them wondering about whether you could have done better. Man, what a fantastic line. Anyway, as Rogue and Gambit head to save the Morlocks, and as they get shot at, Gambit says,
"Never much cared for roulette,"
which is a quip because of his name and shtick. And Rogue responds,
"Then how about we spice up them rules?"
A nice little exchange. I like how this show keeps the cheesiness of the original, with a lot of these lines being on brand for characters' superhero identities.
Give them the forecast.
Let us see how their mob manners fare against the shock of good conduct!
Time for an exorcism, punks!
But uses them in situations where it totally works. They tear through some Sentinels, which shows just how powerful this undentable giant Sentinel is in comparison. As Magneto is fighting the big one, it catches him with a laser that knocks him through some buildings into the statue of Charles, which falls and crushes a group of mutants. A great piece of symbolism. Magneto has been fighting for Charles's dream this whole season, but the ruthlessness of this event has been enough to topple Charles's ideology. His trust in going about it this way no longer stands, as we see throughout the rest of the show. His attempt to peacefully integrate mutants into the world led to everyone's guard being down, as the gala distracted them from what was coming, and even in small ways, like Rogue wearing an outfit that doesn't cover her full body because she felt safe to do so, not expecting what was to come. All of this means that, in a way, Charles's ideology is what caused all these deaths, represented by all the mutants crushed under the statue of Charles. In a chilling sequence, images of what Magneto has seen today flash as he falls down in anguish, crying, and even remembering what he saw in the Holocaust. Such a massive tragedy has never happened to mutant kind, and it nearly breaks him. He can't let this go unpunished, so he attacks it again, shouting, "They shall be avenged!" Bashing the giant Sentinel over and over again with an entire train, but even that is no use. As this is happening, the Morlocks see their building shaking and cower, but Leech says,
"Don't worry. Leech knows Callisto will find us."
A statement that shows Leech's innocence and optimism that unfortunately isn't true, because Callisto died in the initial blast. He follows up with,
"If not her, Magneto. He promised Leech would never be scared again."
Showing more optimism. Magneto promised this, so he has full confidence in it, even if the other Morlocks don't have that same outlook.
The X-Men are no friends to the Morlocks.
Which, given their interactions in the original show, is a very valid thing to think. And as Magneto points out in episode 2 of this show, the X-Men and Charles never used their finances to move the Morlocks to Genosha, which would have further given the Morlocks the impression that the X-Men aren't their friends. It's neat that 97 sees this little hole in the original show and patches it up when Magneto shows up to display his care for mutants. And the promise he gives them is not one he will soon give up on. Right on cue, a Sentinel head comes flying in, but what causes the Morlocks to fear was actually just Gambit's form of transportation. Rogue must have thrown it with him on it so he could have this sick entrance. He blows it up for good measure, then leads them to safety, saying,
"Bonsoir, mes amis. Now kindly follow me."
Referring to them as mes amis to show that yes, indeed, the X-Men are friends to the Morlocks. But also, the reference to them as mes amis shows how loosely he throws around the term, which will be relevant later. As they run out, Magneto ends up nearby, and the train he was using to fight the Sentinel is falling their way, which makes Gambit blow it up and makes Magneto form a shield to protect the Morlocks, which makes the large Sentinel sense him and start blasting his shield with so much power that it pushes Rogue and Gambit back. As Rogue goes to help, Gambit doesn't want her hurting herself, and tries to hold her back.
Too dangerous, dear!
Magneto has the same instinct, and binds Rogue and Gambit to a light post. Rogue, despite turning him down, still cares for him and doesn't want him to give his life to save theirs. So she yells,
"Don't you dare, Eric! You hear me?"
And she tries to break out of the metal holding her back. So Gambit yells,
"He's trying to protect us, Rogue!"
as he sees Magneto's mindset and fully agrees with it, that Rogue risking her life won't help and will result in her dying unnecessarily. Seeing that she is trying to break out, Magneto adds even more metal, as whatever happens to him, he can't bear for anything to happen to Rogue. She looks him in the eyes and finally understands that. Then he looks sadly down at Leech, knowing he won't be able to hold the beam for much longer, and says,
"Hab keine Angst,"
which means "do not be afraid" in German. Again tying back to his past in the Holocaust, as it's likely what his parents said to him when he was a child. The tragedy is that, just like them at that time, he knows that he can't really protect Leech. His promise that Leech will never be afraid again is no longer one he can keep. So he offers empty reassurance that is for no one but himself, since Leech won't understand it. Telling himself not to be afraid because he did the best he can to uphold the promises he made. He is left not wondering whether he could have saved more. His shield finally collapses and Rogue winces. The Sentinel walks away as
Omega threat eliminated.
Echoes. Rogue breaks out of the metal shield Magneto created around them, tears in her eyes, heartbeat pounding so loud that we can hear it clearly, and Gambit, knowing what she's about to do, spots his bike and chases after her as she flies off, then flings his bike while it's lit up by his powers, which knocks her out of the way as the Sentinel fires its laser towards her. Now, I hate to be that guy. Who am I kidding? I love to be that guy. There's no way Gambit's bike is faster than Rogue at full speed. He would not have been able to cut her off like this, especially when she got a head start. The Sentinel approaches the last group of surviving mutants, where Nightcrawler is, but before it fires on them, Gambit shows intent to attack.
Gambit, see your bet, and raise it!
Which makes it divert its attention to him and fire on him. Not sure why it aims in front of him instead of at him, but this allows him to jump off of the ground that gets risen by the laser's damage, in a sequence that is visually inconsistent, as Gambit looks like he was a lot farther than he was, but that problem is just a nitpick. Before he can land his attack, an arm shoots out to stab him, which makes him drop his staff. Then it lifts him up to inspect, and concludes,
"Mutant intruder neutralized."
Gambit smiles, knowing there's one last thing he can do, and as he lights it up, he responds,
"The name's Gambit, mon ami."
His power extends down the arm, lighting up the whole thing, and he finishes his final words.
"Remember it."
Then blows the whole thing up. This final line was a repeat of Gambit's catchphrase.
"The name is Gambit! Remember it!"
But it twists it to mean more here. First of all, the name's Gambit has more meaning after his final act being a gambit. He risked his own life for Rogue's sake, and for the sake of all the other mutants here. The addressing of the Sentinel as mon ami further shows how detached of an address it is for him, which makes what he said to Rogue earlier,
"Till then, we be friends, mon ami. Just friends,"
all the more tragic. Rogue went from being his share to someone who is basically at as much of a distance from him as anyone else. Be that the Morlocks,
mes amis,
or even this Sentinel.
Mon ami.
And that's what hurt him so much about it. Remember it, because these are his final words. There is nothing left for him but to be remembered. The X-Men watch the news in horror as Genosha is up in flames.
"How many?
Gambit, how many?"
Then we jump back to Genosha to see the statue of Magneto headless, Charles's statue in ruins, although still standing, which is a minor continuity error, but that's just a nitpick. But anyway, the survivors overlook a crater to see Rogue holding Remy's body, crying. Finally able to make skin-to-skin contact when it no longer matters, she says,
"Sugar, I can't feel you."
Remy never knew that Rogue turned Magneto down. Even though she did end up realizing that some things are deeper than skin, it was too late. Her being hung up on the limitations her and Remy's relationship would have left him thinking that it would never happen. And he died for her, thinking that she had chosen Magneto over him because he never learned about her ultimate decision. This episode is a fantastic display of how to set up and execute an impactful battle. We get a thorough look at what Genosha has become, how it represents the future mutants want for themselves, that Magneto described long ago. Mutants free to use their powers, express them in different forms of art, dance, cooking. Every detail when it comes to Genosha displays that while a difficult undertaking, they have managed to make great strides for mutant kind in the face of the obstacles we see in the other plotline, where Scott realizes how ungrateful humanity is due to him needing to do an interview to even be seen as a person. At the same time, we get a deeper look at Gambit's character, peeling back the simple, fun layer to show that there's more to him than meets the eye. A tragic dissatisfaction with how he has been held back from a relationship with Rogue due to a silly limitation. I would argue Magneto here is at his most complex as well, really grappling with what his promises entail. Leading the X-Men is one thing, leading Genosha as it enters the UN is something way further from his wheelhouse. However, he is convinced that Charles entrusting him with his dream would include this major step for mutant kind, so he goes forwards with it, albeit with his own conditions. A lot of Magneto's lines here are rich with subtext, because his aggressive self that despises humanity and wants his way is still in there, but he's trying to do what Charles would. So while he can't say exactly what he is thinking all the time, it certainly comes through anyway. All of this leads up to the extreme tragedy wrought by the Godzilla Sentinel, which destroys this nation that represents hope for mutant kind, shows Magneto that try as he might, there are some promises he simply is not able to keep, and kills Gambit, tragically ending his story without the resolution that happened too late for him to hear about it. This fight is consequential to the highest degree, and its impacts are felt through the rest of the show, as humanity's reactions to it only corroborate Cyclops' view expressed in the interview, and even turn some to Magneto's prior mentality. While there are many lines that tie into the show's primary theme of the future, and multiple of the romantic dynamics involve a character being torn between a relationship that should be left in the past versus the one they should actually be carrying into the future, I would consider this episode the most disconnected thematically, dealing a lot with its own themes, all mostly tied up in, of all things, Remy's immature joke from the start of the episode. Among these situations where 2 is better than 3, Rogue explores where she should end up between Magneto and Genosha, or Gambit and the X-Men, which thematically ties up nicely in the line, "Some things are deeper than skin," as rather than enduring a skin-deep but broken relationship in order to be a figurehead for mutant kind, she'd rather be on the team where she can actively participate in making a difference with the man she truly cares about, even if she has held herself back from him all this time, due to the limitations her powers bring, because now she realizes that that limitation wasn't all that big a deal. But the consequences of her hang-up are made clear when rejecting Remy for so long ends up with him thinking she chose Magneto over him before dying. The plot is woven together very well, save for a few minor missteps. The world building makes a lot of sense, and all sets up for the tragedy fantastically, as we are shown the hope this place represents only for it to be torn down. The character writing is all phenomenal, every line matters, and even the small characters serve specific roles very well and have great dialogue. Now that was one marvelous episode that I would give a 9 out of 10. And want to know the craziest part? I don't even think this is the best episode of the show. I wouldn't even put it in the top 3. So why did I make a video about this one in particular? Well, as you probably know if you've watched my other videos, I tend to, in the middle of critiques, analyze good scenes to contrast against the bad I am critiquing. I originally intended for part of this episode to be one of those segments, but I decided I just had to talk about this whole episode, because it is a perfect refutation of all the excuses people make for What If, as well as something to contrast that show's finale against, for reasons you'll see in my next video. I may make videos about other episodes of this show, because it's actually phenomenal and easily the best thing from the MCU since Spider-Man Homecoming, but I have other videos I want to make before that, so no promises. Until next time, and as always, thanks for watching.